Hello, 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 and good morning, everybody. Let me make sure that I am actually live on my platforms before we get started. Now, I'm live on YouTube. It says I did not want to go live on YouTube. Well, I guess it's just too bad. Give me just a second here. I want to make sure. Okay. Yay, I'm in the group. I'm in the Facebook group. So that's what's the most important thing. As long as I'm in the Facebook group, I'm excited. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. I hope your morning is starting off great. I'm super excited to be here with you all this morning. And I hope and I pray that something that I say here has a positive effect and you find a lot of value out of what I'm going to be sharing with you all. I tend to be long-winded. I have a good probably 30 to 45 minutes of solid content, and that's probably without anybody asking me any questions. But I do have an hour that I can devote. My cousin is celebrating her 40th birthday, and we've got brunch with a group of ladies. So I'm going to make sure that I can get there on time and help her celebrate. Let me pull up here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So I am using Restream. I've used it a few times. It's going to take me a little bit to get used to it. Let me just kind of play with it a little bit here and make sure I've got everything the way I want it to be. I've got 3 people on, so please say hello. Say how you're doing this morning. I see someone. Keisha is here with us. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining. Let me go ahead and get into it because I want to be respectful of your time. If you see me looking over here, I actually am recording myself on my cell phone too because I'm going to try to repurpose this content. So if I look over here from time to time, it's because I'm probably doing a really smart type of smirky attitude look. Anyway, I'm Quisha Umemba, everybody. I hope that you know or have went on my website or researched a little bit about me, but I'll give you just kind of the quick and dirty. I am a registered nurse and public health consultant. That's how I identify. I never refer to myself as a public health nurse. And if you want to know why, just ask me why. I won't get into it right now. But I am the CEO of Umemba Health LLC, which is a public health education and consulting agency. And our goal there is really to advance health equity through community-based approaches. Some of the things that we focus on are providing education to the frontline workforce, specifically community health workers. We empower leaders and public health organizations and healthcare systems. We also help them to expand their community presence. So we do all of those things. So hopefully they can elevate the lives of the individuals and communities that they serve. Umemba Health has been in business next month for 3.5 years, and in next month as well, a year, I will be working for Umemba Health 100% full time. So I'm super excited that I was able to walk away from a 6-figure job in corporate America. I've always wanted to say that. I've heard people say that, and I've always wanted to be somebody that says that. So I'm excited that I've been able really to just kind of thrive in my new role, or full-time role rather, as an entrepreneur. And I was actually fortunate enough to hire my first FTE, my full-time employee, back in January. So there are 2 full-time employees, and I have 4 1099s. That are really consistent because I have 2 sides of the house. And so Umemba Health Academy, I've got my instructors there. They're my 1099, but you can ask any of them. I treat all of my 1099 like family and like employees. So it really does not feel like they're employees as well. I have come to know a few of you in just like the last, I guess, week or so, when I put out an announcement last week that I was looking for freelance public health consultants. And I've been fortunate enough to meet with a couple of you that applied. I think I got 95 resumes, CVs, applications like that. And I closed it off. And I'm still getting probably at least 2 or 3 every day. And I'm like not even near finished going through them, which really led me to believe like there is there's a lot of people in this space and a lot of expertise and a lot of people that are looking into getting started with public health consulting and having some of the same things over and over, not knowing where to start, not, lacking confidence, not knowing how to look for opportunities. And so I've been kind of beta testing these services for the last 2 or 3 years. I've mentored a lot of people. All of my training, I always pilot it first, as any good creator or producer does. And it was just time. It was just time for me to really share, what I've learned, and just kind of some secrets of my early success. Not to say that I'm balling out of control by any means, right? But again, I have been able to achieve quite a bit in a short amount of time. So let me just quickly give you a little bit about my nursing background and my public health background, because I think it helps for you to be able to maybe put yourself in my shoes or see yourself through how I describe my journey. So I had a stair-step education. I started out as a medical assistant. Wanted to be a doctor, but got married young, had my oldest son who was 21. And, life just lifed. Life be life, and that's all I can say. And so I went and I got my medical assistant certification, and I ended up being valedictorian. And one of my instructors, which is why I love instructors, I love teachers. One of my instructors said, Quisha, you really need to keep going. Like, you really should go further. You should look into being a nurse. And so I signed up the next semester. And I got my ADN first, Associate's Degree of Nursing. I got my bachelor's a couple of years later, Bachelor's of Nursing. And I have worked everywhere. I started out in surgical intensive care. I've done moonlighting in ER. I've worked in telemetry. I've worked in, oh my God, oncology, not full-time, just moonlighting. I've done hospice and palliative care. I actually love hospice and palliative care. I did that for a couple of years. Part-time as well. I've worked in progressive units. I've worked in long-term care. And then the bulk of my career, I spent as a clinic coordinator for an endocrinology clinic, where probably 80% of my patients had diabetes. And so it was there that I acquired my hours of diabetes education and health coaching patients with diabetes, and then eventually went on to sit for my certification in diabetes education. So I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist. Now, at this point, I wanted to get a master's degree, but the type of personality that I have, I just really wanted a plan B. What happens if something happens and I, don't want to nurse anymore, or, I lose my nursing license? Not that I think or thought that I would do anything to lose my nursing license, but I'm just a plan B, plan C, plan D type of person. I also was not interested in getting my master's in nursing, because at that time, I only thought that people that got masters in nursing went on to teach nurses. And I knew I was not going to teach nurses, because I'm very much a do as I say, not as I do type of person. And I know I did not need to be in anybody's clinicals, showing them the wrong things to do. Because let's just be honest, when you've been a nurse in the real world, it is nothing like textbook. And so I'm a real world, just kind of scrappy, make do with what we have type of nurse. And so it's hard to transition from that to going back and doing things the way they teach you in nursing school. So I knew I didn't want to do that. And at the time, I kept seeing MD, MPH behind doctor's names, MD, MPH. I asked a friend of mine who was the endocrinologist overseeing our clinic, what is this MPH? She said, it's a master's in public health. You probably love it. You'd probably be really, really interested in it. So just so happens in one of my classes, I think maybe my second semester of my bachelor's program, we did what's called a windshield tour. And it was my first time really understanding that everything in the environment, everything in your community, everything in your neighborhood really is tied into public health in some kind of capacity. And so I did enroll and eventually went on to get my master's in public health with an emphasis in health education and health behavior. I think, if I can get my words together, I think that the master's of public health, or the public health degree in general, marries perfectly with nursing. I don't know why there's not more nurses that do it. I'm always trying to get nurses to go into a public health background. And normally, and I said I wasn't going to explain it, but I'll go ahead and explain it. Normally, when I try to tell nurses about public health, or people about public health in general, and when you're a nurse, they automatically think of those traditional things that you may see a nurse working at a local health department doing, vaccinations, working in TB, those type of things. And so when I'm telling people to go into, as a nurse professional, to go into public health, I'm talking about doing more of those things that I did, which were running programs and launching new initiatives, and very programmatic and operational, not necessarily defined to direct services, which is fine. You can do that as well. But it's so many options and so many things that are out there. So that's my nursing background. Now, when I got out of school, I remember it was about 8 months before I graduated, around maybe March, and I was graduating in December 2015. And at the time, I told my husband at the time, I said, we've got to leave Arkansas. We've got to leave Arkansas. There's no way I can go from working at the VA, the Veterans Hospital, for 10 years, which pays really well for nurses, to a health department as a nurse. If I was to stay in Arkansas, I think I would have taken like a $15,000 pay cut, right? So I started applying for jobs, and the first job I applied for was chief nurse in the Office of Chronic Disease and Prevention at the Houston Health Department. And so I did a couple of interviews with them, and they said, we want you, but we can't wait till you graduate. We'll give you a few months, but you got to come by September. And so here I am, relocating, moving my entire family, husband, 2 kids, trying to sell a house, trying to get, find somewhere to live there, and doing all of that in my last semester of grad school, but I made it through. And so one thing I will say about my MPH, about that degree, the MPH is the only degree that I can say I have utilized every single thing that they taught me in the program. And if you have an MPH and you agree with that, I love to see you say yes. I'd love to, for you to put something in the chat. And I'm not acknowledging, I'm sorry, I'm just talking. Hello, everybody. Good morning. So glad to see you all here. Went to go work at the Houston Health Department, chief nurse, oversaw a couple of programs. Colorectal cancer, I have. Thank you. Colorectal cancer was one of my programs. My primary program, of course, was the diabetes program. I can't even get into how great and fantastic that program and how innovative it was and cutting edge. And I mean, it just was awesome. But I spent about 4.5 years at HHD. And really, that's when I realized, like, crap, I'm working 60 hours a week for this place, and I am just really knocking it out of the box as far as, the programs and partnership development and the number of MOUs that we were closing. And it really got me to seeing, like, if I can do this for somebody else, I know I can do this for myself, right? And I love that job. I love my staff. They're still family to this day. So my very best friends used to be direct reports, and now they're 2 of my very, very best friends. I love what someone just put in the chat. If I had to do my life over again, getting my MPH is for sure one of those things I'd redo. Absolutely. Same way with nursing. I feel like it's just really the best of both worlds with those. So anyway, back to HHD. I loved it till it didn't love me back. Let's just keep it real. Not all jobs and not all supervisors are going to be where you need to be. I was there for a season, and it was perfect because it opened me up to so many possibilities, and I needed to be there and go through those things that I went through at that moment. Then Texas Department of State Health Services called on me because they needed a diabetes nurse consultant. And they needed someone with my skill set that could, at that time I did grants management, and I was doing grant writing. And of course I had the diabetes education background. I knew how to design a diabetes program backwards and forwards. I knew about the billing infrastructure and all of those things. And so I said, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'll come. It was a pay cut, but I had decided at the time it was probably going to be best for my mental health. And sometimes you have to take a step back before God moves you forward, right? So I knew that things were going to be tight, but again, relocated my family from Houston to Austin to work as the diabetes nurse consultant for the Texas Department of State Health Services. And this is what I figured out when I got there. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever worked for the state before. Let's just say it is not my speed. I'm used to moving, going, shaking, blowing, and the state does not operate like that. It is very laid back. It is very chill. There are 1,000 layers of approval before anything can be done or can be changed. It just was not my speed. It was not my cup of tea. But one of the things that I realized is consulting is just really talking to people. about how they should implement their programs and how they can develop this or develop that and how to evaluate and troubleshooting what's going wrong and providing them with evidence-based practices and lessons learned. And I'm like, so this is what consulting is? Like, this is, dare I say it, easy. This is a piece of cake. So it was then that I realized, oh, I can really do this on my own if this is what consulting is, right? Because it's taking all those years of experience and all those years of expertise, and you're just, you're developing deliverables. Sometimes you're creating content or a toolkit, or you're writing an article or whatever that is. But a lot of times, if you're doing like program design or training, you're taking what you know and what you have done for years, and then you're helping that organization to create, develop, or improve and refine their processes and services. So I worked for the state for 1 year. Now, keep in mind, now I have at this point about 5.5 years of public health experience. I worked for the state for 1 year. Let me tell you why I worked for the state for 1 year. I started Umemba Health. I told my husband, I'm bored. I just got out of a partnership. Okay. So I've had a couple of failed businesses before Umemba Health. I said, I'm bored at the state. I've got a lot of downtime. I'm just keeping it real with you. You're not supposed to work on your job at the job, on your business at your job. But I did. And I started my business. And so when it got to a certain point, when it was making a name for itself, someone went and ratted to my supervisor. And then my supervisor contacted me and said, you didn't sign, the paperwork telling us that you had another job or a side gig or whatever. Because you didn't do that, what you're doing is a perceived conflict of interest. And so you need to terminate your business. This is exactly what they told me. You need to close your business, right? Or you're going to be terminated. That is what they told me. You need to shut down operations or you're going to be terminated. And let me tell y'all, I cried for 3 days. I was so upset. I cried for 3 days. I was mad. I kind of know who did it, but I didn't really have any proof who went back and said anything. And my excuse was everybody has another job. The only thing is Peter is working at Lowe's in the evening and Mary is working at, Claire's maybe on the weekend. Maybe it's not a consulting business, but almost everybody at the state had a hustle, right? A side hustle. So I tried to fight it. I did, I tried to go through the union and all that other stuff. And it took my husband, I love him to death. On that third day of me crying, he looked at me and said, aren't you a nurse? Can't you go anywhere and work? And I said, oh, I am a nurse. I can go anywhere and get a job. I'm not invested in this job. I don't just terribly love it like this. So why am I, so emotionally distraught over this? So I stopped crying. I revamped my resume. I put Umemba Health on it. I revamped my cover letter. I put Umemba Health on it. I revamped my LinkedIn. I put Umemba Health on it. And I gave a 30-day resignation. That's right. He said, remember who you are. Absolutely. I gave them I always give a 30-day resignation. I just do that as a courtesy. I gave a 30-day resignation and I chunked them the deuces. And every interview that I went on after that, because I told my husband, whoever takes me next is taking me with Umemba Health. They have to not be threatened of Umemba Health, and they have to know that I'm going to take care of their job the same way that I take care of my business. It was probably 30 days later that I got a LinkedIn message from a company that I resigned from a year ago that said, hey, we see what you do, with your business on LinkedIn. We'd love if you could come to our organization and talk about doing that for us. And so I went on an interview. I remember telling my husband, I was like, this is the best interview I ever went on in my life. I went and got a nice glass of red wine. I'm like, this is it. I know that job is mine. And like 2 hours later, they said, Quisha, we don't want to waste your time. It was great getting to know you. It was great meeting you. We thought you were wonderful, but there is somebody else better for this position. Oh, but y'all wanted me. I was sick. Oh my God, I was so sick. But God, that's all I can say. 3 months after that, I get the same exact call from the company and say, hey, Quisha, 3 months ago, I couldn't tell you at the time that we had just got approved for a new position for a corporate trainer. But we knew we wanted you for that position. We just couldn't tell you. Would you mind, did you already get another job? We'd love to interview you again for this position. So long story short, I went through 4 interviews. I got the position as a corporate trainer. So never doubt that what is for you is for you. So and that position is a value-based care agency where I did training for internal and external stakeholders, mostly internal, and then our clients or our internal staff then went out to provide the consulting to our clients. So that's a little bit of background with my public health and also my nursing experience as well. And I gave you a very quick and dirty. If you want to find out more information, you can visit my website. My bio is there. I can't remember if my CV is there or not, but that's a lot of information. I want to start talking about what you all are here to know, to learn what's really important for you. Now that I've shared a little bit more about myself, and I want to talk about how to monetize your skill set. I have seen the responses in the chat. A lot of you, you're ready to get started. You've got a tremendous wealth of experience. Like, so many people chimed in with their credentials, and it is truly alphabet soup. So it's definitely time for some of you all to go ahead and take the leap of faith and just step out on faith and do your thing. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about how to monetize your skill set. But I have to tell you something. Half of this conversation today is going to be about mindset. I did not say that in the announcement. I purposely did not say that because when you talk about mindset, a lot of people think it's kind of flu. I know for me personally, I was totally not into talking about mindset. Man, I just want to get money, get straight to the point because I need to start making money. I need to get my business. And one of those things that probably every entrepreneur knows is you ain't gonna make no money if you don't have this right. Okay. You can have the best intentions of the world, right? You can want to save everybody and you want to put out all this good in the world. But if you don't get this right, then you're not going to be successful. I don't care how smart you were, if you were a straight A student or, top of your class, whatever that is. So I'm going to share my screen. I want to do about half slides for this presentation. Let me see here if you can see it. Actually, yeah, let me go. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to that view. Y'all give me a thumbs up if you can see my slide. I think you can see my slide. Let me look here on my Facebook and make sure you can see it. Thank you so much to everybody that's tuned in this morning. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and hit replay so I can know that you are watching the replay. And I'm not going to go any further until I can see that you all can see. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I actually need to go back one more. So I want to talk about 4 self-limiting constructs that you have to overcome before you even embark upon this journey. Again, I know a lot of y'all want to start businesses. You want to at least freelance, if not start your own business. But we got to talk about these 4 things. And the first of these is fear. Okay. Fear is a basic human emotion. It is hardwired into our system. It actually has protective measures, right? It keeps us from physically harming ourselves sometimes, right? The issue with fear is that it really does capacitate you. It limits you. It keeps you stagnant because fear sees the downside in everything. And if you are courageous enough, I want you to just kind of raise your hand or say, that's me. Is fear one of those things that's been holding you back? And I'm going to look in my chat and see who's doing that. Has fear been holding you back from starting this process? If so, I want to know. Now, fear stands for, and I think you already saw it there, false evidence appearing real. Okay. I'm sure y'all have heard that before. False evidence appearing real. Now, this is one thing that I've learned about fear. Fear will keep you from your assignment. And the reason I think it's important for me to say that, a lot of you all really have this, something is pulling on your heartstrings, and you feel like you've been called to do something greater than what you're doing right now. I know for me, I always felt like, God, please call somebody else to do it. like, I would see problems or I would see issues and I knew things could be better. Even when I was not just in business, when I was working in other organizations, and I'd be like, oh, God, I'm just waiting on you to send somebody to fix it. I'm just waiting on you to fix, send somebody to make it better. And it would never, ever happen because it was me. I was the person that was supposed to be in that position. That was my assignment. But because I was fearful, I was crippled. And so fear is crippling, it is stifling, it feeds stagnation, it keeps you from taking advantages of opportunity, and it really puts you in this self-made kind of prison because of this false evidence that appears real. It is one of the biggest things that stops people from being greater. And this is how you get over your fear, y'all. We're fearful because we are afraid we're not going to get to a certain level of success. But if you redefine what failure is and you redefine what success looks like for you, then there is nothing to fear. So I know for me, when I first started, I kept saying, well, I'm not doing a 101, I'm not going live every day. And I'm not, I'm not making the first year in business, right? I made $6,000. I'm like, I'm not making $10,000 a month like some people. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And so I started looking at things from a different perspective. You go on my Instagram several months ago, I said, this is what success looks like for me. It looks like the fact that my credit score is a 750 now, and it hadn't been over 625 in 10 years. It's the fact that my husband and I were able to buy a house in a market where you have to pay $20,000 to $100,000 over bidding in order to get a house. It's the fact that I can pay my bills on time every month, right? It's the fact that I'm working remotely, so I have freedom and flexibility. And so there were so many things that I listed there that is successful for me. And so maybe I'm not making, well, I am now, but whatever that is, maybe you're not making $10,000 a month right now. But if you can say or look at the positives and redefine what that looks like for you, then there is no failure. Okay. I have to share this quote that I love that Denzel Washington shared during a commencement speech. And I don't even know what university it was, but he said, this is what he was telling students. He said, fail big, fail fast, and fail often. I love that. He went on to say, every failed experiment is one step closer to success. Y'all, you will always pass failure on the way to success. Every successful person has failed before. There's this great post. I actually should have screenshot it. I'm really bad at LinkedIn anyway. But this speaker, and I think over 1,000 people have commented on it at this point. But there was this speaker that said, he's been speaking for X amount of years, and this particular workshop that he was doing, I think it was a breakout session. There were 4 people that came to his session, and he said, during the course of my career, I have to realize there's going to be times when I completely book out the room. It's standing room only. He said, but there's also going to be times when there's like 4 people there, and that's just life, right? And so if you can just re-engineer your mind and your way of thinking about what failure is and what success looks like, then it really does help you on your way to greatness and just doing everything that you need to do to get your business together or your life together. The second is comfort zone. Comfort zone. Go ahead, give me another. Raise your hand if it's hard for you to get out of your comfort zone. I see some people raise my hand when it came to fear. Who struggles with staying in that comfort zone, right? Okay, it's familiar, it's safe, it's my routine, it's my habits. When I'm in the comfort zone, there is no stress, there is no anxiety, there is no risk. Who struggles with the comfort zone? Because guess what? There is no reward in the comfort zone, right? It's none of those other things, but it's also not much reward either. Let me tell you, there is nothing wrong with the comfort zone from time to time. We need to be low key sometimes. We need to be relaxed every now and then. The problem is people get in that comfort zone and they stay too long. And if you can see this image here, the comfort zone really sets boundaries. It really just limits you from getting where you're trying to get. And the only way that you stop or that you build your capabilities and that you grow so that you can reach your full potential, is to step outside of the comfort zone. Let me tell you something that I learned when I decided to do this. And I said this my second year in business, because I knew just kind of the way my business was set up, I knew it was going to be soon before I quit working. And so I told myself in 2022, if it scares and I'm going to curse, so excuse me for whoever is watching and listening, I said, Quisha, and I told my husband this, if it scares the shit out of me, it means I'm going to do it. It means it's something that I need to be doing. If it scares the crap out of you, it is something that you need to be doing, because the comfort zone is overrated. Now, I'm going to say something that you're not going to believe, because every time I say it, nobody believes it. I have fear of speaking. Okay. It has really not been into 2023, and that's because of acupuncture and therapy and some other strategies that I've put into place. I dread most times in public speaking. But I figured out a very long time ago that, one, God put some things in me that I need to use to achieve my destiny, right? That, two, the world is waiting on what I have to offer, and they're not going to hear my message if I'm not on the stage. So I've just got to learn how to push through and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I went to, this had to be, it's when I was living in Austin, so maybe 2020. I went to the Texas Women's Conference, and the keynote speaker for that year was Tracy Ellis Ross, the Blackish actress. And I'll never forget something that she said that I wrote down in my journal, because of course I was taking notes like a fool. And she said, I have a comfortable relationship with fear. And actually, when she came on, she was kind of shaking and all excited. She was like, 8,000 women are here. Oh my God, oh my God. I have such horrible stage fright. And the woman was like, are you serious? She said, oh yeah, absolutely. But I have a comfortable relationship with fear. And I immediately, when I got home that night, I started just researching stars that have anxiety. Adele has anxiety, stage fright. Rihanna used to take shots before, alcohol shots, before she would go on stage. And the list goes on. And I thought, okay, Quisha, you're beating yourself up because you have, your body wants to reject its internal organs anytime you have to step on a stage. But the issue is, that's just the flesh, right? That's just going to happen sometimes, and you've got to learn how to push through that. And so I realized then I had to just continue to make myself do it until I felt comfortable. Because here is why you have to get out of that comfort zone. There is no growth in the comfort zone. There is no promotion in the comfort zone. There is no progress in the comfort zone. And if you're trying to start a business, I'm here to tell you, there is no money in the comfort zone. So if you want to get out of the comfort zone, you have to do it scared, people. You have to do it scared. You have to do it ugly. You have to do it rough. You have to do it imperfect, but you have to take the first step. Put yourself in new environments. Don't pick the safe choice. Take a different route. Make a snap decision. For those of you that are like me, type A, logical. You have to think about everything. You need a plan A, plan B. Just do it and think about it later. And that's hard to do, but it's going to make you so much better. And that's the mindset that you have to have if you really want to be in business for yourself. All right. Imposter syndrome is the third one. Raise your hand if you're brave. Raise your hand if you can be honest and say that this is something that you struggle with. Imposter syndrome. Okay. We have all struggled with this at one time or another. This is a feeling that you're not the right person for the job. You don't know everything you need to know to get the job done, to accomplish the task. Maybe they should have went with someone else. Why am I at the table? I really shouldn't be at the table. We've all experienced this at one place or time in our life or in our business. Thank you for those that have said me. Yes. And especially if you're a woman, I don't care if you're white, black, or any other race or ethnicity. Especially women deal with this. Let me tell you something else, and this is a mindset hack that I did. 2022 was a very monumental year for me. I was listening to a podcast. I don't even do podcasts right now, just because I just got addicted to them, and it was just overkill. So I was listening to a podcast, and someone was talking about Oh, I can't remember exactly what was being said, but what I got out of that conversation was move through world the way a white middle-aged man born in America would move through the world. And what I mean by that is, as women, we always think we need another degree. We need another certification. Once I get that certification, I'm going to do XYZ. Once I get that DRPH, right? Once I get the DNP, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. We're never just satisfied with being enough with what we have. And so after listening to that podcast, I said, you know what, Quisha? From now on, you're going to move like a middle-aged white man in America. And what does that mean? That means I don't need another degree. That means I don't care if I'm not qualified. That means I'm going to shoot my shot anyway. I'm going to have the audacity to feel like just because I was born and I'm me, everything that I want should come to me and I'm going to get it just because. And so that really did something to me. When I was afraid to pitch to clients and do things before and, go after them, I stopped being afraid. I started sending emails that said, how can I win your service? I became a salesman. And I saw that, was it a movie or maybe it was a car salesman or something like that? And I was like, you know what? That's kind of a catchy tagline. And so I would send emails and say, what can I do to win your service? Because I started thinking like a middle-aged white man born in America. It's mine if I want it. So you have to think that way as well. Let's see. I've got some notes here, but I tend to get off track. But I want to give y'all some of this information because I think it's really, really helpful. Deanne Butler, she is a DEI consultant. She's on LinkedIn. I follow her on LinkedIn, and she reposted a couple of weeks ago. So again, I didn't save it. I didn't whenever I'm on LinkedIn, I'm just on there and off. And I wish I would have screenshot it. I can probably go find it. But she reposted this quote that said, you don't have imposter syndrome. You were just made to think you were an imposter for being there. I'm going to say that again. You don't have imposter syndrome. You were just made to think you were an imposter for being there. It really hit me here. It really, really hit me here because there's so much truth in that. It's not that we're not good enough or we don't think we're good enough. Half the time you can't tell us we ain't the shit. Like you really can't tell me that, right? It's the fact that we don't think that other people think that we're good enough. We don't think that other people think that we should be at the table or we should be in the room or we should have the microphone. That's where the struggle is. And so if you re-engineer your thinking, again, that mindset that's needed to really start a business and be an entrepreneur, you have to start. Let me see if I can give an example. I love to give concrete examples because I think it helps make a lot more sense. I've been in meetings before where everybody at the table is a DRPH or an MD or a PhD or some. Every single 19 people, the 20th person, Quisha, MPH, RN. Everybody else has a doctorate. And it's been, even now and years ago, when I was working at the health department, and I would be like, man, why am I here? Everybody has a doctorate but me. Like, should I really even be here? Why am I here? Now let me sit at a table and everybody has a doctorate but me. I don't need it. If I want to go back and get it, if I choose to go, and I have done a year of a doctoral program, but I stopped. If I want to, if I choose to, and I do, but it does not make or break me. It surely does not put more money in my bank account. But I've been able to re-engineer the way I think about myself, my abilities, and I no longer believe that I am an imposter. So imposter syndrome, your mean brain says, I don't know as much as everybody else. But in reality, you know just as much as everyone else does. I can never forget, I have a book over here, Michelle Obama, and I think it was after her first book. She was doing interviews and doing tours. And she had talked about, I don't know if y'all remember this. Y'all tell me if y'all remember this interview or not. And she was talking about working or living in the White House. And she said, one thing that I remember about the White House is that, and working with people in the White House, is like, they're not that smart. Do y'all remember that? Did anybody remember seeing that? She was like, they're not that smart. They're just not. And this is what we have to remember when it comes to imposter syndrome. Like, some people, they had more opportunity, they had more resources, they had parents that had money, or they had, connections. They had pull to get them where they are. But at the end of the day, a lot of times they're no smarter than you. It just appears that way. And sometimes they can be a lot more confident. So it appears that they're smarter than you, but they're not. Okay. When it comes down to it, it's not about knowing everything. It's about knowing where to find the information. Okay. I will tell people all the time, I have a PhD in YouTube University. I have a degree from Google Community College. I am self-taught in about 80% of things, and the other 20% came because I was smart enough to hire coaches to get me where I am right now. So I'm going to figure it out. And if you did not know, when it comes to being an expert, you don't have to know everything. When it comes to being an expert is someone that knows this much more than the people that they're teaching and that they're training. But a lot of you all keep thinking, oh, if I get a certificate, or if I get another degree, or if I take another class or course or this or that, I'll be in a, no, you just have to know this much more. I just know this much more, maybe this much more than y'all. That's it. And there's some things that you know much more than I do, but it doesn't mean that one of us is better than the other. Look at that. In reality, your knowledge and skills matches other people's knowledge and skills, right? Let me tell you something that really did it for me. This came from one of my business coaches. Again, the second year in business was just a monumental, just mindset set change for me. But I heard her saying a couple of things. There are people that are less smarter than you, fewer connections, fewer resources, fewer opportunities, and they're in business and they're making money. Some of them have a nice personality and some of them are charismatic, but not always. I'm putting myself out there as a speaker. I really want to tap into dominating the world one stage at a time, even though I am a social introvert, right? And guess what? I know I can do it because there are people out there that are speakers and they're horrible speakers. I've paid money to go on virtual trainings, and I'm like, I really would email them and get my money back, but I'm just not going to do that because I didn't pay that much for it. They're horrible speakers, horrible trainers. You know some of these people too. And so, don't allow imposter syndrome to hold you back. Just know that you are enough. Okay. You are enough. The last thing that I want to talk about, and again, if you're brave, tell me this is you: perfectionism. A lot of people are perfectionists. Let me look in the chats here and see if I can see some people saying there. Michelle says, I'm preaching. Thank you. I felt a preach coming on this morning. I did. I felt a preach coming on, but I knew I needed to lay this foundation for people before I go into, okay, let's talk about monetizing your skill set. Because in the comments when people are like, oh, it's the confidence, I don't know where to start and I'm not really sure and all this stuff, you got to get past this first before anything else comes. And so thank you. I think it's Demi. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely. Perfectionism. I used to be one. I always say I'm a reformed perfectionist. I'm a reformed perfectionist. I am a reformed type A, but I'm still in the 12-step program. And this is what I love about perfectionists. They're driven. They're extremely organized. They're highly professional. It's great to work with people that are perfectionists until it ain't. Because this is what I dislike about perfectionists. They tend to be overly anxious people. They take too long to accomplish tasks. Talk about hiring a VA that's a perfectionist, whole nother conversation. Takes them a long time to complete deliverables. They have higher levels of doubt and insecurity because their self-esteem and their self-worth is contingent upon their success. That used to be me. If I didn't get the top grades, I'm gonna tell you something. I didn't realize I wasn't the smartest person until I got to nursing school. And when I got there, it was a big culture shift for me. It really did something because I was one of those students that I didn't really have to study. I looked and crammed maybe the night before for a test, or maybe in the next class before, and I got A's and B's. And so when I went to nursing school, it was like, oh, I have to like like stop working, or I think I went to just weekends and like actually study and like, oh, there's people that are smarter than me here. That really hurt my little feelings, right? But but it was lessons that I needed to learn, right? Perfectionists, perfect patties. If you're a perfect patty, I'm talking to you. Yes, I know you have high standards, but you can be rigid and you can be unrealistic at times. And if you don't learn how to just do it scared, do it rough, and do it ugly, you will never start your business. You will never start your business. Okay. Some of you all right now, you have projects that you haven't started. You have songs that you haven't released. You got a book inside of you that you haven't put any words to paper. You got a course you haven't created. It's so many different things that you have not done because it is not the right time. It's not perfect. All the T's are not dotted. All the I's are not crossed. Facts about nursing school. Yes, it's savage. And look, and I'm telling you, being perfect, and I've been there and I've done that, y'all. I wasted so much time. I did my very first attempt at business called Diabetes Pros. I wanted to do my website myself. It took me about 7 months to get that website perfect. It just was not right. I ain't have no money to pay nobody, and I just kept on. You know how long that bit? I was in business for 1 year. I made $700 from one speaking engagement. And after 12 months, I closed it up and said, this is not going to work. One, I knew nothing about business. I just knew if I can do a good job for other people, I can do it for myself. But I let this just needing everything to be perfect keep me from really aspiring and going where I need to be. And so this is what I want to tell you about that. You should never strive to be perfect. You should always strive to be a work in progress. You should always strive to get better. You should always be in a state of quality improvement. I call myself the 90-day girl. Everybody that works with me knows we're going to try something for 90 days. If it don't work, we're going to figure out another way to do it. This is life. Even if you're at the top of your game, you still are looking for ways to get better. When I go back and look at some of the curriculums I've developed for organizations and the trainings that we did in that first year, I cringe. I get so shameful. I'm like, I can't believe I charge people for this. It's horrible. It's ugly. But that's how it should be. Because normally we have higher expectations of ourselves and our work than other people do. So stop worrying about being perfect. Done is better than perfect. I'm telling you, just do it and do it scared. Just do it and do it scared. Done is better than perfect. All right, now that was a lot of information. I wanted to lay that foundation. We've been going now for 50 minutes. I told y'all I was long-winded. Let's get through these 5 steps. I'm going to stop this. I actually don't even want to do that anymore. I'm just going to talk to y'all, if that's okay. I'm just going to talk to you. It's 5 steps. If you're taking notes, it's a good time to take notes here. I am going to pop some things on the screen for you, though. Let me put my chat overlay here so I can make sure if there's any comments, they'll display there. I'm going to see if they actually display there. I can see them, but let's get started. 5 steps. And so we're talking about monetizing your skill set. Step number one, let's see if I can do this. Where are you at? Here we go. Step number 1, what's your why? I don't know why that looks like that capital R. What's your why? Why do you want to start a business? What's your why? I want you to list out some reasons of why you want to start a business. And let me tell you this before you start listing them or before you put them in the chat. You can even put them in the chat. That would be great. But before you start doing that, 90%, I'm not even going to say 90%. If you have 3 reasons, 2 have to be self-centered. If you have 5 reasons, 3 need to be self-centered. And why am I saying this? Because helping professionals, that's you, public health practitioner, that's you, nurse, that's you, social worker, respiratory therapist, counselor, except CHW, we always want to help other people. Okay, we want to save the world. We want to speak up for those that don't have a voice. We want to do all this other stuff for other people. And I'm going to tell you at the end of the day, there's going to be some trying days and you're not going to care about nobody else. And you're going to want to close down your business. I'm speaking from experience. I also have a nonprofit that I co-founded 3 years ago. I just stepped down as president. I got really burnt out, right? Had the best intentions, but you get really, really burnt out. And so I give people permission, and that's why I'm saying I'm giving you the permission to be selfish. It's okay if you want to start your business because you want to make money. It's okay that you're starting this business because you want to build legacy. It's okay that you're starting this business because you want freedom and you want flexibility. Okay. All of those things are okay. And it's okay if those come before helping people. Let me say it again. It's okay if your selfish reasons, if you think that they're selfish, come before helping people. That's completely fine. But I want you to write down at least 3 to 5 reasons why you want to start your business. And even though this seems very menial, let me tell you, it is not. I did a master class a couple of years ago on the same topic, and my baby sister was in there. And I come from a family of educators. My sisters were teachers. My dad was a teacher. My aunt's a professor. And she said, after that 2-hour session, I realized I don't really want to start a business. I don't want to start a business at all. She said, I just wanted to start a business because it was trendy. Everybody's doing it. Everybody has a side hustle. She said, but now after talking, sitting through the workshop and talking to you, I don't even want to do it anymore. So really think about that, because it's going to be some hard days when you have to go back and say, why am I doing this after all? Do I really want this? Or is it because somebody else wants me to do it? Or is it other people are counting on me now. I've started this. Now other people are counting on me, and now I have to continue it. Okay. I love the comment. I want the freedom to work on projects that are meaningful to me. Yes. And to allow me to create work-life balance as a single mom. Thank you so much for being, just for acknowledging that you want to do what's meaningful for you. That's the whole purpose of starting your own business. I terminated a contract with a subcontractor last month because I didn't want to work with her. Well, she actually breached the contract too. But I remember telling my husband, I didn't go into business for myself, so I had to work with people that I didn't like. You do that when you work for somebody else. I went into business for myself so I can pick and choose who I want to work with. So it's a lot of advantages that come in it, but please, think about that. That's the first thing that I want you to do, and keep them coming. I see some people typing in there. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and go to the second one. Number 2, what are you good at? What are you really, really, really good at? What comes easy to you that does not come to other people? What do you get asked repeatedly? What are your best skills and expertise? Okay. What do you love to talk about for hours and hours on end that you lose track of time talking about it? What do you love so much that you would do for free? Let me tell y'all, that is really the key. That is really the secret. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I've been asked that question so many times. Like, what would you tell a new grad, or what would you tell, somebody just getting started? And it's always the same thing. Do what you love doing so much you would do it for free, then charge. It's simple. That's it. Do what you love doing so much you would do it for free, then figure out a way to charge for it. That's actually, if I wanted to say how to monetize your skill set in a nutshell, that's the one line. Do what you love, then figure out a way to charge for it. Okay. I'm loving these whys in the chat. I'm loving these whys. So that's your second thing. That's your second homework step. What are you good at? Identify what are you good at. And that's not just, that's your passion, right? But that's also your educational skill set. And we'll break that down a little bit too. The third thing you have to do when you're monetizing your skill set, identify who will you serve? Who are you going to serve? Who do you want to serve? And let me tell you something. It cannot be everybody. Nope. It cannot be everybody. The first 5 months of Remember Health, I did chronic disease education, specifically diabetes. But I would have workshops on diabetes, diabetes prevention, because I was doing the DPP program at the time, hypertension, and kidney disease. Every month I would have workshops. Sometimes nobody was there but my mama, my daddy, and one of my sisters maybe, right? But of course, I was just starting my business. I had to start from somewhere. I wanted to serve everybody. Everybody needs this education. Everybody needs this information. I can save the world. I can do all things. I wasn't making any money, right? They say there's riches in the niches for a reason. That's why you see health coaches say, I help women do this. I help men do this. I help nonprofits do this, right? So you have to identify not only your market industry, right, but your target audience. So for Olympia Health, my market industry is public health organizations and healthcare systems. But what's my target audience? Most of the time, my target audience is community health workers, or it might be the leadership, or it could be, depending on the organization, front line, whoever's on the front line. Maybe that's the front of the office, the medical assistant, the whoever. Who are you going to serve? For QU or Quishu Member Consulting, that's helping professionals. I group that in. If you're a doctor, nurse, pharmacist, whatever it is, if you're considered a helping professional, that's who I serve, because once you identify who you serve, it's going to help you market and tailor your message better. Okay. When I first started, I said I want to work with small to medium-sized organizations. They have a certain amount of budget. They have a certain amount of staff. Now that I have more capacity, that has changed. I can work with major organizations. It just depends on what the project is. So identify who you're going to serve. And I'm going to look at some of these comments before we go a little bit further. These are really good comments, and thank you so much for engaging. It really helps me teach better. So Demi says, I'm good at process improvement and building relationships with community and organizations, consulting all day, every day. Michelle says, the intersection of public health and tech. Okay, that sounds like money, Michelle. I'm in the process of starting my nonprofit for it. Also, digital health research. That's what I want to start a business for. Again, that sounds like a lot of money and investors. Keisha says, I want to gain more public health experience in maternal and child health, flexibility, and extra income. And Keisha, I'm always looking for RFPs. There are a lot of opportunities right now with maternal and child health. So that would be a really excellent field for you to specialize in. So that's what you want to do. Now, let me tell you how this, how this all comes together and makes sense. And I actually do need to share my screen for this. So let me turn it back on so that you can see it. What you want to do next is you want to find your sweet spot. Find your sweet spot. What is your sweet spot? Your sweet spot is where your knowledge, your passion, and your client needs meet. Okay, I mean, you've probably seen this. I think it's called a Venn diagram before. All coaches teach the same thing. This is nothing that I created, but this is what helped me. You're probably going to have to do this several times, right? I have done this several times. Sometimes it changes, but this is what you want to do before you get started, because you never want to go into business doing something that you're not absolutely passionate about. You obviously don't want to be a consultant and portraying any kind of expertise if you don't have the knowledge and the background and the skill set for it. So write down all of that alphabet soup, all of those credentials. Write down all of those training programs, all of those courses that you've taken. Write that all down in the knowledge circle. Then write down your passion. Yes, I know you love helping people. Everybody that hears the sound of my voice or that watches this replay later loves helping people. But what specifically are you passionate about? And now write down your client's needs, or the market industry that you've identified, or the target audience that you've identified. And here's the kicker. This is really how you know you would be a consultant worth your salt. A lot of times, your client doesn't know what they need. They don't know what they need. A lot of times you have to tell them what they need. You have to be the one to tell them and identify what's missing and help them see that. So write down not only what they need, but what's missing from the industry, what's missing from the agency, what's missing from the intervention as well. And then as you continue to do the exercise, you will hone in on something that makes the most sense. Oh, somebody said I'm great with curriculum development. That's on my list. I have speaking and training, curriculum development, all of that stuff on my list. And then what do I love to do? I love to speak. I love to train. I love to mentor. I love to coach. What do my clients need? The clients that I serve, public health organizations, healthcare systems, nonprofits, those individuals, they need their staff trained. They need continuing education. They need upskilling and reskilling and new skilling. Well, look at there. I just happen to love teaching and training people, right? So that's how you find out what you love to do, what you're good at, and how you can serve your clients. Okay. All right. So the fifth and the final, and let me go back to just looking at myself now. The fifth and final is where the real work begins. And that's where you need to start planning. Um, you need to start doing your market research, figuring out how you're going to serve your clients, what solutions you're going to offer for them. A lot of that's not necessarily going to come out until you do your research, right? Until you validate your business ideas. And we're actually going to do a business idea validation session in a couple of weeks. I believe it's the third series. So, survey some potential clients. Survey your friends, survey family, ask them, hey, if I was doing XYZ, would this be valuable to you? If you have a trusted person on your job, even that you can ask, you can do market research, see what others are doing as well. You can research social media hashtags, Google what is trending, join Facebook and LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn is really good for kind of knowing things business related. Read books, read reviews. Do what you can to that, because the last thing you want to do is create a service or create a business. And a lot of times you get the Facebook and the handles and the social media and you get the website. God forbid, I do this. I jump straight out and get a website, which is not something you absolutely need when you're starting out. And it's not one of those things where if we build it, they will come. It doesn't work like that. If I build it or if I put it out here, people will come. It doesn't work like that. So start doing those things to make sure that there's actually a need for your particular services. One of the ways that I got started first was research I'm not going to say competitors, which is really good. You should research your competitors. But I researched companies I aspired to be. I looked at public health agencies and what they were doing. And I said, you know what? I don't have the capacity to do, these things that they're doing, but I do have the capacity to do these. And I really like the way they're doing that. And I think I did that for about 6 or 7 organizations. Actually, how my name came to be Remember Health as well, because I started seeing Vita Health and Oscar Health and all these other organizations that were called something health, and so I said, well, I'm just going to call it Remember Health. And so that's the first thing. Research companies or organizations you aspire to be, see what they're doing. Research any lookalikes or competitors. Now, if you ask me who my competitors are, not being cocky, I'm just going to say I don't have any. I don't have competitors because nobody out there is doing it like I'm doing it, right? But in reality, there are some people that offer some of the same services that I have. Research those organizations as well. Don't steal their ideas. Compare and contrast your business idea with their services. Don't copy them. Just get inspired by them. Put a unique spin to them. Make it something that's different and innovative and something that's your own. Okay. Training and teachings are also my strength. Excellent. Thank you. Who said that? You're literally my favorite. I appreciate that. All right. So let me get to tip number 6. Tip number 6, get to work. Get to work. Get to work. For those of you that have been kind of maybe freelancing before, there's a way for you to figure out how much you're going to charge and different things like that. I want to speak specifically to those that have not gotten started yet. Be prepared to give your gifts away when you first get started. I know that is controversial. You hear some coaches and consultants that tell you don't do anything for free. I'm a keep it real person. I'm not going to hire somebody that has no experience. If you don't have a speak, like if I have a women's event or conference or something, you don't have a speaker reel, you haven't spoken at any other events, nobody, I haven't gotten, any reviews or word of mouth, you don't come highly recommended. I may give you the opportunity to speak, but I'm not necessarily going to pay you for it. Now, that's just how I am, and that's how most people are in the world. And so I know when I first started out, I would reach out to individuals and say, would you be interested in this? I'm doing it at a discounted rate, or in exchange for me doing this, I would love a review or testimonial. Okay, so be prepared in the beginning to give your gifts away, because you've got to build their portfolio. Can you barter gifts? Barter services? Absolutely. So maybe you have a friend that's also trying to be a consultant or trying to start a business. Maybe there's something you can offer for them, they can offer for you. You both write each other reviews, and that way you can get started. If you go to my website right now, quishamember.com, half of those reviews at the bottom of that homepage at the bottom, those are people that I've worked with before. Half of those are. But it's also people that I've provided services for, I've done things for. So they had no problem giving me those testimonials and those reviews. So just know that sometimes you will have to give your gift away. I was trying to see if there was anything else in my notes that I wanted to talk about here. And I guess I'll talk about this just for those of you that have been in business for a while. And maybe you're wondering how much to charge. And so I want to talk about this just because it's been asked a couple of times this week as I've been doing interviews for freelance public health consultants. When you work as a consultant, how much you make is going to change depending on the contract, right? It's going to change depending on that. If it's a 10K contract, it's not going to be much. You might, it may be $50. It may be $125. It just depends on how many hours you're working. If it's a 6-figure contract, okay, maybe you'll get $250, $350 there. So it really just depends. I'm going to just be keeping it real with you. If you're just getting started, you're going to undercharge. You're going to undercharge because you're not confident. You don't know what you're worth yet. You're not sure if you can do it yet. Even if you do a good job, you don't feel like you should be charging people that much. Let me tell you a true story. My former business coach, Tiffany A. Washington, love her to death, when I was getting ready to resign, I said, Tiffany, I don't even know how much I should charge them, right? So for those of you that don't know, my former employer is now a client. I'm actually training about that next Saturday. And so I said, I don't even know how much I should charge them, right? And she said, well, let's charge them. She said, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to be the curriculum development consultant. I'm going to do some internal trainings with them. I'm going to do much of what I did before I left. There's nobody else that can do it. And she said, so basically they need you, right? And you have a skill set and da-da-da. She said, $300 an hour. You need to start at least at $300 an hour. And I said, I can't charge them. They are not going to want to pay $300 an hour, right? So they sent over the paper. They sent over the paperwork. And I was going back and forth like, oh, what am I going to put down? What am I going to put down? Am I really going to put down $300 an hour? I put down $250 an hour and expected a rebuttal. Let me say that again. I put $250 an hour and expected them to come back and say, we're not going to be able to pay you $250 an hour, Quisha. It's just not going to happen. Sorry. I put it down. I didn't hear from anybody that day. The next thing I know, I got an email with all of my documents telling me when my laptop and all my equipment was going to be, all of that. And I went back and I said, Tiffany, I said, you won't believe this. Like, nobody said anything. All my equipment is being mailed to me. The contracts have been signed. And she said, we should have started higher. And it blew my mind. So I'm just telling you, in the beginning, you're not going to charge that much because you don't think that you're worth that much, right? Sometimes you don't know how much to charge. When I first started, I was doing curriculum development for organizations and they were making a killing. Curriculum development, you can easily, on one CE, a highly interactive CE, you can charge anywhere from $5 to $10K for that. And I was doing like hours worth of curriculum for like $10K, $15K, and it should have been $40,000, $50,000 worth of work because I didn't know. A lot of times you don't know how long it's going to take you to develop a toolkit or, to develop a webinar content, whatever it is. But as you do the work, you will understand more appropriately how you should be charging. It's just part of the everybody goes through it. It's part of the territory. And now I even have like my contact at my last employer that's now a client says, our business office called and said, why are we paying Quisha so much? We don't even pay the doctors that much. And I said, well, because the doctors don't know how to charge their work, right? So you will learn those things as you go. Another thing I'll say, and I'll try to wrap up because I'm going over Yes, you are undervaluing yourself. That's okay. Is that you also will charge yourself depending on the budget. I don't really turn down money. If it's something I love to do, I'm not going to turn down the money. I'm working with a client right now, California Black Health Network. I'll be very transparent. They came to me and said, we need help developing our diabetes program. They told me about the intervention. They told me about the population. And they said, but we don't have that much money. This is our budget. And I looked at it and I said, well, this is what I can give you for 150 an hour. Okay. So I make 150 an hour with them. It's a retainer contract. It's not as much as I would like to make, because now that I have a team and people and equipment and all this other stuff, I would like to make more, but it's what I love doing. And I can do it with my eyes closed and both of my hands tied behind my back. So 150 is not that bad. And so it's not ever going to be consistent. If it's six figures, maybe I'm charging them 450 for that. It just depends on the project, and if you really want to do it, if you really want to work with that organization. I'm right now in the middle of securing a contract with the organization in Arkansas that I've been wanting to go to work back home in Arkansas for a very, very long time. Is it what I want? No. But I'm compromising because I believe it will lead to more business, as most of our business is repeat business. So those are the type of things that you have to think about there. So we have come to the end of the training. I want to give you some takeaway actions, though, because I realize that some of you are ready to get started now, right? When I was reading the comments from one of the posts on yesterday, it was a lot of people like, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to get started. Okay, so if you're at that point where it's like, okay, I'm ready now to start the business, here are some things that I recommend for you. Okay, again, 6 more tips. One, go secure your DBA, stands for doing business as, or your LLC with your Secretary of State office. Now, I got my DBA, I think it was 10 or 11 bucks in Austin. I got my DBA 3 months before I got my LLC. I'll never forget, it was October the 5th. I went and got my DBA. I hired a business coach, and I told my best friend and my husband, 5 years from now, you're going to look at me and you're going to say, Quisha, you really did that. You said you were going to do it and you really did it. I told him that October the 5th, 2019. I got my DBA because that's all I could afford at that time. In December of 2019, I asked my husband for $300 so I could go to the Secretary of State and register my LLC with Texas. Okay. Once you do that, apply for your free EIN. Go ahead and secure your free Duns and Bradstreet. So it's called Duns, DUNS, or Duns and Bradstreet. It's kind of like your FICO for business. I really only needed to use it probably for federal contracts and when I purchased my vehicle, because I purchased a vehicle in my business's name. 4, reserve your social media handles and pages. Even if you're not able to do steps 1, 2 through 3, but you want to start business, go ahead and reserve the pages, the names, the social media handles. I would go ahead and reserve the website domain. So the website domain is like your www.mylastname.com or whatever that is. I always joke and say I'm going to buy my kids' names domains, and then if they start businesses, make them pay me to buy their domains back. And 6, hire a business coach. So I've had 3 over the 3 years that I've been in business. Again, it was the first thing I did when I got my DBA. The first, I'm not going to say I had any success with my first business coach. The second business coach was a nurse consultant and phenomenal. She really skyrocketed my success. The third, I just mentioned Tiffany, again, phenomenal. She really has helped me for my business as well. I'm very transparent about my financial growth. And so in my first year of business, I made $6,000. My second year of business, I made $85,000. My third year of business, I made $230,000. Mind you, this is all working full time. And so you can see as that trajectory, there's been a lot of growth in a short amount of time. So I am going to leave you with one word of advice, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions. And this is for all of my people. And I mean, that is as true a word as they come. So let me look at my questions that I have here. And honestly I have 12 minutes and I need to be heading to my ladies brunch. All right, let's see. So I'm going to work my way. Let me go up a little bit. Yeah, somebody said I'm really undervaluing myself. We all do. We all go through that. That's okay. So some people have their LLC, their EIN. Okay. Someone says I have worked with the business coach and I've been freelancing. I need to go to the next level. Absolutely, it's okay to just freelance if that's what you want. A lot of people say I don't want the stress. I'm not dealing with it. I'm telling you all, there's a side of business nobody tells you. My FTE, I didn't know I was going to be paying almost $2,000 worth of employment taxes because she lives in Maryland. When it's time to do taxes at the end of the year, that's a whole nother. I mean, there are things that come with running a business that some people just don't want to deal with. And so it's okay if you just want to strictly freelance or subcontract with some people and not have a full service consultancy. How do you find a business coach? Social media, I'm sure. I'm very particular about who I work with, though. So Tiffany, I really love Tiffany's messaging because she talked a lot about offline success. And so for me, I'm not the type of person where I want to do a whole bunch of lives. I don't really stay on social media a lot. My business is primarily B2B, business to business, right? And so I don't have to market and advertise and do things like some people do, because I'm not really, not to say that I'm not trying to serve individuals. I am. So of course I do speak to individuals, but the person that's writing the check is usually the agency or organization. And so for me, I wanted someone that really embodied those values of this is how you pitch, this is how you propose, this is how you present to organizations, and just her whole spiel about offline marketing and offline relationship building and things like that really appealed to me. Elle Pearson is a nurse consultant. And so I followed her for probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months in her Facebook group. I think it's called Healthcare Consultant Master something. I can't remember it now. But just the fact that she was a nurse and she had been there and done that, and something that she said, it just stuck with me. Once she said, why is it that when hospitals need someone, when they need help, they call in a consultant? This person usually has an MBA, a master's in business, and they never worked a day in a hospital. They don't know the inner workings or anything, but they know processes, right, and theories and all this other stuff. And they hire this person that's an MBA to come in and fix what's going on in the hospital instead of turning to the people that are inside the organization. Where you as a nurse, you've served on committees, you've developed processes, you've especially if you've been in management or charge nurse or anything like this, you've been a leader, you've overseen things. Like, you're more ideally positioned and prepared to be a consultant for a healthcare organization than somebody with an MBA is any day. And when she explained it to me, like, it just really kind of opened up my eyes to see and understand exactly, what a consultant is and does and brings to the table. So someone said, very interested in subcontracting. I want to freelance. I have my own business, which is event planning and holiday decorating. I love that. Hey guys, we've been going for a long time. I completely misstated the amount of time that I would be sharing with you all today, but I hope you found some value in it. Do those homework steps 1 through 5. Please, if there's any questions, if you're watching after the replay and there's any questions that you have, drop them here in the chat, in the comment section, and I'll be sure to answer them at some point this weekend. Take care, everybody, and I hope to connect with you all soon, and I hope to see you at next Saturday's session.